Hey, my name's Tom Kent. I am currently studying a Masters in Clinical Exercise Physiology. I currently play for and I'm the kick secretary for the Sharks, and I am also in charge of running the circuits for Boat Club. I also used to be a part of the Powerlifting and Weightlifting Society.
Hi guys, hope you're well. My name's Tim Purdy. I am the Wellness and Performance Manager over at the Allen Sports Centre. So today, hopefully I'm going to talk to you about mental health. I'm going to answer a couple of questions and just sort of give you my input around mental health.
Hi, I'm Kofi. I'm a third year marine biologist and I'm a part of Cricket Society.
Hello there, I'm Theodore Butler. I study Emma's music, and the sports I am a part of are dance squad, men's cricket, boxing, karate, and men's lacrosse.
Hi everyone, my name's Connor and currently I'm finishing my Masters in Clinical Exercise Physiology, and although I'm not currently a member of a sports club at uni, in the past 4 years I've been part of Hull University swimming and men's hockey clubs.
Hi, I'm Connor. Currently studying criminology and psychology, and I'm in my first year. I'm also part of Hull University Cricket Club.
Hi, I'm Joe. I'm a film student, I'm a powerlifter, and I'm one of the social secs for Hull University Powerlifting and Weightlifting.
Hello there, my name's Matt. I study politics and international relations, and my main sporting activity is men's hockey.
Hi everyone, my name's Kenneth McVie. I'm a wellness team leader here at Hull Sports, so the gym on at the university. Play quite a few different sports, mainly sort of contact-based rugby union, American football, rugby league, as well as strength sports as well. So competed in sort of strongman competitions and powerlifting and that kind of thing.
My name's Will. I'm president of men's hockey and secretary of the athletics union, and we're here to talk about mental health.
Mental health to me means having the confidence to trust yourself and follow through with whatever decision you make, as well as just trusting yourself in general for whatever you might think.
Again, I think this is very individual and person by person basis, but for myself, I'd see it as sort of overall well-being. Overall well-being. So generally, somebody's self-worth and happiness in their sort of day-to-day life. So obviously, emotions and feelings are going to change depending on situations or times of stress, etc. But I'd see sort of the general definition of mental health being that sort of constant state. So obviously, if this is negative or upset or obviously not in that optimum happiness and self-worth, this is where there's going to be a problem.
First and foremost, I've dealt with mental health issues or related issues in a number of ways. Some very close family members have and are suffering from illnesses like anxiety and depression. Mental health can come in many forms, which is why it is hard to diagnose. But my strongest belief towards mental health is related to Winston Churchill. He talked about his severe depression and he called it the black dog. Now, from my perspective, I believe everyone will get a visit from this theoretical black dog at least once in their lives. But obviously people will deal with that in different ways.
I think it's just as important as physical health. It can affect your social life, your work life, and also your physical well-being. It's also important to me to keep mentally healthy, as it can affect my work at uni and friends and family.
To me, mental health means looking after your emotional, psychological and social well-being. Mental health is something I've had struggles with since a very, very early age.
So to me, mental health is all around your emotional and your physiological sort of needs within our sort of mental health. And I think for me, mental health has so many different types and varieties. And I think what I've seen is that as we sort of transition through different phases within our lives, our mental health and things that affect us obviously change as we sort of go along that journey, whether that's going through university, into a new relationship, and then maybe even starting a family. I think that what I've seen sort of throughout my career and throughout my sort of life, if you like, is that as I sort of develop, then my mental health and the way that I have to adapt and adjust to things is also sort of adapted as well.
Mental health means a lot to me. I've known people lose their personal battles with mental health. I myself was one jump away from losing my personal battle. It has affected me for the last decade of my life, so it definitely means a lot to me. I don't like it when people try and excuse it through some physical injury, in terms of they try and treat mental health as something you either have or you don't have. Everyone's life is relative to their own perception. You can't just treat it as an absolute thing. It's not. It's pretty fluid. So therefore, it's what everyone makes of it. Everyone's impacted by things differently. Just because one person can handle one scenario doesn't mean that another person can handle that scenario the exact same way. It's all relative. Also, when discussing mental health with others, I hate it when people who start talking about their mental health may start off by saying, well, my situation isn't as bad as yours, but really, who's to say your situation isn't worse than mine? Who's got the capacity that can say that with confidence? I haven't walked down your road, you've not walked down mine. I probably couldn't handle some of the stuff you went through, you probably couldn't handle some of the stuff I went through. You might handle stuff better, I might handle stuff better, but that's all irrelevant because this is your life, this is your road, it's not mine. So mental health definitely means a lot to me. The issue with it is that it's invisible to the naked eye, but it leaves a permanent marker and reminder when it does take effect, if allowed to, that I and so many others have found. So mental health does mean a lot to me.
It's hugely important. We all need to look after ourselves, and taking time to reflect and grow while staying positive and healthy, I find, is the best way to go about life and improve yourself.
For me, mental health means more than just the negatives. It's more than depression or anxiety, and that's a lot of what I was told when I was younger. You know, if people mentioned mental health, it was always a negative thing, never positive. But instead, I see mental health as both the ups and the downs. You know, everybody can have something bad happen in a day, but if you have two things that are good, we still tend to hold on to that negative. Whereas I try to embrace the positive instead. And yeah, you might have a bad day or a bad week, a bad month, or for all of us, I think, a bad year. But there have been ups, and it's trying to focus on those ups instead of the downs. That's really key for me.
Mental health is overall mental health and well-being. That includes mental, social and emotional factors. So it can be affected by what's happening in your environment, with people around you, where you live in, even what course you're doing, and it all influences how you act, how you feel, decisions that you make, how you process your thoughts, any information around you and that you've been told. And mental health to me has really been a huge factor in how my life has been shaped so far.
Personally, I believe it is because of the stigma still attached to mental health, and the way men are still pressured to act a certain way.
So I think for me personally, the sports that I've always played have been very individual based sports. So I used to play racket sport, and now I do quite a lot of sort of endurance-y stuff, whether that's running or on the bike. And I think I spend a lot of time with myself, And I don't think I always have that chance to talk to other people. I'm not really in that environment as much as well. So for me, talking about my emotions has always been quite tough and a bit of a challenge for me to kind of open up to people. Definitely need to build trust with people. But I think it's our culture and it's the behaviours that have sort of been built into us from an early age, is that, you know, men don't show their emotions. And I think that's something that definitely needs to change as we sort of go forward. And I'm a big fan now of, you know, talking with members of my team and male colleagues and male friends. And even if it's just going for a coffee and just having a talk rather than trying to do everything over the phone or via emails, I think the importance of talking one-on-one to someone is really, really important.
I think men find it hard to talk about their mental health because as kids, a lot of us were told, suck it up, stay quiet, deal with it yourself. And we've all got used to, you know, expressing ourselves behind closed doors or just completely shutting ourselves out. But that isn't how it should be. Everybody needs to have somebody to talk to. Or everybody has someone they can talk to. Whether you feel like you don't, you definitely do. Because most people understand that you're not always going to have a good day. You know, you might be feeling really down. And maybe you do want your own space. But you should never dwell on that. And you should never feel like you can't talk about it. You can. You always can. There's always someone there to.
I think some men might find it hard to talk about their mental health because there's still an element, I would say, of kind of toxic masculinity. God, that's a hard word to pronounce. Where it's almost kind of looked down upon to express yourself and talk about your feelings. I've had experiences where growing up I approached people to talk about, you know, the anxiety I was experiencing and the depression, and it was kind of almost laughed about, which really did nothing but make it harder to express myself.
Again, I think this comes back to perception. So obviously it's not seen as manly or masculine to have emotions, or again, that's kind of a preconception. But I think throughout society, men are kind of held into almost set ideology of being this strong masculine figure, and be that sort of physical strength or emotional strength. But again, like, the definitions of what is emotionally strong is probably different. So like, guys probably don't own up to having these feelings or these troubles with the mental side of thing, and almost fear of being perceived as weak, whereas in reality it's probably the opposite effect. So obviously not talking about it or bottling it up is actually causing the problem to exasperate and be bigger than maybe it would if there was that open dialogue. And I do think obviously as the more recognition and more awareness is of these issues, especially with male mental health, those transmissions of communication are more open and that dialogue is more readily available.
I mean, obviously, it's a stigma to be a man, but it's much less so people saying it to others now, and more so people having it in their own heads and believing that this is what you need to do. I recently reached out to a friend who said that he didn't want to seem less of a person going through these struggles, to appear pathetic despite visibly having a massive weight on his shoulders. He thought this despite myself and others in the circle advocating people to reach out if they were going through struggles and felt that they needed to have some support there. I know he's not the only one. We all do it. I'm guilty of doing it. It's just that we don't want to seem a burden on others, so we'll just try and stick through it. It's basically an overestimation of bottling things up and sticking through it and hope it just subsides eventually if you ignore it long enough. And it's an underestimation of how being open can be beneficial and just turn your life around when people understand that you are not okay, but that's okay.
Well, in my opinion, it's through the history of male stereotypes. So, for example, men should be big, muscular, and confident, do what's called manly sports, such as football, rugby, cricket, for example, and they should be show no real emotion and be really resilient physically and mentally, be very hardworking, but if any of them factors, any of these things are lacking, there's stereotypes and in history has been that sign of weakness. We should be allowed to talk about the issues that we're having with our mental health.
So I put this down to the man up culture that is really instilled on us all. It works for some people, I think, but everyone's built different, and for others it really causes more harm than good. We need to normalise being open with each other and that it's okay not to be okay.
I think there's usually a stigma attached to mental health, and society still has sort of a man-up approach, attitude to things. Or men that talk about their feelings and thoughts are sometimes called beta males or something like that.
There is too much competition. Every time men are in groups in places, most in popular and known, the pub, they always believe that they have to act and know and think and drink as much as their peers and banter on the same level. And if they don't, then they feel that they will be laughed at, bullied, ridiculed, and sometimes even forgotten about. And it has happened many times in the past. And because of that, there's always that impression that that will always continue to happen. And because of this, men tend to keep a lot of these problems bottled up, which, as we've seen, can be self-harming. Also, another thing that I've witnessed and seen is that when men are in large places like clubs, they don't tend to act as a group or really make sure if everybody is all right and just, if everybody's fine and not in any sort of trouble. And because of that, therefore, men feel like they can only handle problems or really do anything that shows their vulnerability by themselves, as it seems like traditionally that's what is expected of a man. And that is absolutely not the case at all. Anybody should feel okay to consult someone in a group and get help. No one is ever fully perfect, and that's another thing. Men feel like they need to be absolutely perfect at everything. That's not the case at all.
I'd say that finding something positive to put your energy into, such as exercise, art, or another project, whatever it may be, really helps. For me personally, I started exercising daily and I started my own business. Stuff like that really kept me going. I don't know, without that, I really would have struggled these past 6 months or so.
Honestly, just distractions. There's no one set formula that will work. For myself, I'm lucky to be in an amazing household. I have a busy and fun life that just keeps me distracted. Exercising a lot, coaching a lot, and also doing a uni course that I am just infatuated with. I do also have an absolute A-star group of friends, so there's always that positive. However, there are times where I will find myself just laying on my bed, just binge watching Kitchen Nightmares on YouTube, and that's when the lockdown blues start to set in, where it starts to be a bit of an issue, and just mental health starts to be a bit of an issue. But I try not to let it take hold now. I'll have some pick up and drive. I'll go out for a walk. I've got a car, so I'll go out and drive somewhere. I'll just try and do something that just takes it off my mind, even if it's just for 20 minutes. Something's better than nothing. So basically, yeah, just find a positive distraction, learn new skills, have fun with your friends and your family. I know it's basic advice, everyone says the exact same thing, but the issue is that it's a very new situation that we're in. Everyone's still trying to grasp it and understand it, but because everyone is trying to grasp and understand it, it means that people are probably in a very similar boat to you, and they probably want to have positive distractions themselves. So reach out to people, try and create this positive distraction on your own, positive distraction with your group rather than just on your own. And even if you're just getting up YouTube and doing Just Dance, because you might as well get yourselves ready for Asylum when it kicks back off.
I think my top tips for staying positive during this COVID world is definitely control what you can control. I think that's probably been the biggest thing for me, is that we've had so many restrictions and guidelines put in place, and our control has been sort of taken away from us a little bit. So definitely control what you can control, whether that's your exercise, whether that's when you do your work or when you do your work, what you eat, when you sleep, who you talk to, what you do in your downtime, whether that's you read a book or you do something that's a bit more relaxing than just being in front of the TV all day. So control what you can control, and then try not to worry about everything that you can't control.
I found it helpful to engage in any activity. If you can keep your mind occupied, it keeps it from focusing on things that eat away at you. Personally, I found running or jogging really good for clearing the mind.
So my top tips for staying kind of mentally healthy in a COVID world are to find some semblance of a routine. I found that to be massively healthy. Make sure you are sleeping a good amount, because I know firsthand that the minute kind of my sleep quality and sleep gets a bit shorter, I'm not getting like 8 hours, I start to get 6. The anxiety tends to be pretty bad. And make sure that you're actually finding something to do for you, whether that just be play a video game or read a book. Remember to do something for you. It is truly, truly helpful.
For me, COVID has been tough. I've had my ups and my downs, but I've definitely managed to make this a positive experience. I've actually started trying to learn a bit more Spanish. I kind of put it away after GCSEs, so now I'm trying to do something new. I like music. Listen to music. Find whatever interest you have and explore it. And if you don't have an interest that's at your access, find a new one. I used to collect ceramics, but I can't do that now. But that's okay. I've got my Spanish, I've still got music, and I have other things that I can take up on. I've also, oddly enough, really got into cleaning. Everything has to be spotless all the time now. Don't know if that will stick.
So, for me personally, I think the keys to staying positive is having that, I've talked about this in a couple of other mediums, is having sort of a set structure and almost a purpose to what you're doing. So it's easy, obviously, as being in lockdown, everything's kind of changed for everyone in terms of you might not have your work or your study or be in that normal day-to-day structure that you'd have. But I'd say that by keeping some form of structure, even if it's a self-created one, you're able to keep in that positive mindset. And just looking at everything kind of task focused. So if you've got a set checklist of things you want to do or accomplish, once you achieve one of those during the day, you can feel a little bit better about yourself. And also just don't beat yourself up if things aren't going quite the way you wanted. If you have an off day, again, times are tough, so at the moment anything that's going to bring you happiness and improve your well-being and mental states probably going to be, obviously going to be more beneficial. And that can be as simple as like cooking a nice meal, going for a bit of exercise, or just watching your favourite TV programme or playing a computer game or wherever it might be. Try and take those little enjoyment factors when you can as well.
Dance, do it. Just bust some moves. You will love it. And number 2, even more important, stay in touch with family and friends. If you can't meet them in person, meet them online. It's so important during times like this to maintain that close contact, because it reminds yourself that you're not in this alone. You're all in this together. You're all experiencing the same things. Even if you want to contact someone you might have rarely talked to, or you fear might not like you for whatever reason, or someone you haven't spoken to for years, if they're not contacting you, don't wait around. Be the first one to contact them. You never know how much you might change their life for the better, especially if they know that you still care enough to check in and ask how they're doing.
So my 3 top tips, starting with number 3, is to keep yourself occupied, away from just looking at social media. Number 2 of the top tips is be kind to other people. And number 1 is use the increased amount of time that you have to maybe restart your life, reflect, evaluate and act upon what the world is like before COVID and the lockdowns.
Keeping your body and mind busy, so breaking up your work schedule, breaking up your everyday schedule. If you can, go out for a walk or a run, or find some home workout routine online it will make you feel a lot better. Set yourself small goals as well, such as like learning a new skill, maybe language, cooking that new recipe, or just condensing notes onto like a smart tidy page you can hang up. Also knowing that COVID won't last forever, we'll be out with the friends and family soon enough, I'm sure. It helps me make friends and socialise, because I'm quite new to hockey, so it's a good social activity, especially during COVID times, and it breaks up my day as well. I think fitness makes me feel better for the rest of the day as well, and also training and matches gives me something to look forward to in the day.
Sport has a massive impact on mental health issues. I once heard a quote that said, if you have a healthy body, you have a healthy mind. And to some degree I do agree with this. I would encourage anybody to engage in sporting activities who are struggling.
So sport helps me massively. If I was not doing sports or exercise in general, not only would I not be where I am today, I don't even think I'd be alive today, as bleak as that is to say. If I look back at the times I've been out of sports and exercise, my mental health has declined massively, without a doubt. My family, my friends and my previous partners can back me up on that too. I mean, the last relationship I was in that ended unnecessarily messy, and I put the vast majority of that down to the fact I was not able to have the output of sport and exercise, and yeah, the effects just took on, and it was just a big reminder how important exercise and sport is to me. So as I said, it gives me an output and a sense of focus. I constantly want to achieve, I constantly want to do my best, and I love the challenge of it. The endorphin rush, that definitely helps too. So if I feel I need to just think about something, I'll just go on the river in a rowing boat, and just where it's nice and peaceful, you can be on your own, there's no one about, it's just bliss. But then on the opposite side, if I'm like, I need to vent, I need to get it out, I can just go to the gym, just slam a bar, slam some big weights, or just completely wipe someone out at training. So sorry to those of you who've been on the end of that, but you did help a bit, so I'm not too sorry. So sport works because it's a distraction. You don't really have time to think about the problem, whatever sport that may be, from chess to rugby. The relief of not having it on your mind, just even a brief period of time, can do wonders. You need to think of sport and exercise as this potential potential mental paracetamol. So that's how sport helps me.
For me, sport has always been an outlet. I was never a footballer or a basketballer. I'm not a physical, tough kind of person. But I found my sport in kayaking. And I found it recently in climbing again. For me, it was a way to just have my mind completely distracted on something else. You know, when you're doing daily tasks, there's always little thoughts kind of popping in, but when you do a sport, you get more into it and you kind of forget about everything else that's going on. And for that brief time, all that really matters is whatever you're doing. And sport is also a good way to keep the body healthy. And at the end of the day, a healthy mind needs a healthy body to fully work. So sport for me has definitely had a positive mental health impact for me. Definitely, especially when I was younger. I used to be quite antisocial and I wasn't really good in situations, but by going and doing sports such as kayaking, I was able to introduce myself to different people, but in a place where I was comfortable, and it made me be able to develop those social skills just a little bit better.
Sport's an absolutely fantastic thing to put your energy into and stay sane, I find. I really enjoyed competing and completely missed out now at the moment, deprived of it these past couple of weeks. But I love the camaraderie that being in a uni sports club brings with it. You know, being a part of men's hockey has been my favourite part of being at Hull. This semester would have been very different without sport. Glad it's been on.
So for me, this is massive. I think using sport as a tool to aid your sort of mental health and support your mental health well-being is massive. I think just using sport as a tool, almost as like a stress outlet, whether that's going for a run, whether that's doing a circuit at home during this lockdown period, is really, really important. And we can use sport and we can use exercise during this lockdown period now as a way to set a little bit of a routine into your day. Outside of that lockdown period, I think sport is massive. I think what sport does is it puts everybody on a level playing field. It doesn't matter where you come from, what you do, what your interests are. If you play sport with a group of people, you're all involved within that sport and you've all got that same connection, which I think is really important. And I think for me, sport has helped me develop some great friendships, which I've sort of carried on from my early sports days from university. And I think it's such a powerful tool for building relationships, friendships, and engaging with others, and really helps people stay connected and has that feeling of belonging.
Finding powerlifting was truly one of the best things that could have happened for me and my mental health. I find that being involved in sport, it adds elements of stability and certainty, which is a truly big thing, especially for someone like me who does have issues with anxiety and panic attacks. The way I explain it best to people is that with powerlifting, 100 kilos always weighs 100 kilos. So that kind of certainty is just, it's almost relieving. Like, it just makes everything feel a lot more in context at times when everything feels a bit out of control. Sport truly has changed my outlook to mental health and how I cope with it.
So for me, exercise and sport have always been sort of my outlet. So I don't play as much sport anymore, unfortunately. My body's a bit broken. But getting in the gym and expressing myself physically and getting tired and almost putting myself through a bit of suffering, I find very therapeutic. It's a good place to just shut off, and you just, again, it goes back to focusing on that task at hand. So your mind's occupied by whatever it might be, either be it sports or in the gym, it's going to be focused on that task at hand. So you're not thinking about other worries that you might have, other stresses in your life. So again, this is might be a bit of escapism, and this is where sports especially come in, because for the most part you're going to be around, if it's team-based sports, I've involved in rugby, like I said, for most of my earlier years playing sport, and it's good just to get around sort of like-minded people, your mates. You can have a bit of a laugh, and again you're getting tired and focusing on the task with a group of friends, so it's a bit more light-hearted and you don't have to think about any troubles you might have at home or in your personal life.
So sport for me is a huge part of my life, and it has been since I was a little kid. And it is a way for me to escape the most stressful parts and aspects of the world, and it means I can express myself without having to talk about it all the time or keep my feelings in.
Charities like Movember have been and always will be special for firstly entertaining the idea that people do suffer from mental health issues. Secondly, it ensures key funding for such an underfunded illness. And lastly, it promotes people to talk more openly about it, especially when they know there are agencies out there that can help.
I think charities like Movember are truly important for raising awareness for men's health and men's mental health, because I think awareness is half the battle when it comes to things like this. If raising awareness can save one person's life because they have a list of resources they can go to, or they just feel a bit more secure in approaching people due to it, then I think that is truly, truly special and truly important.
So charities such as Movember are so important because it shows that people like myself are not alone, and there's many numbers out there like suicide emergency lines, Samaritans, Minds, the charity, for example, Let's Talk at Hull Uni.
Things like Movember are really, really important because it allows a larger audience to kind of experience and see into the light of whoever it's about. You know, Movember's about men being able to talk and be open about how they feel. It's also about testicular cancer because that's a large, large impact in men nowadays. And with activities such as this and charities such as, you know, Movember, you're really able to get a grasp on how the general public are feeling, and you're really able to kind of pull people out who weren't really keen on talking, who weren't really up for being vocal about how they felt, and now more comfortable because more people are aware of it and it's less of a stigma. There's no stigma to it. You know, if you were depressed, there was a big stigma, you know, suck it up. But now with such things like Movember, you know, talking about your feeling and being depressed is not a bad thing. It's just about the awareness. Awareness is key.
For me, they're so important because they're raising the profile of mental health, especially within sort of men and young men especially. Again, you know, the rate of mental health is rising within young males as well. So having a charity that can support people, give them coping strategies, you know, get people to understand if a friend or a colleague is going through some mental health troubles is so important. And just raising that profile and making the culture within men and young males more that we talk to each other rather than trying to bottle things up and store it away, is that we have these conversations with each other. Everybody feels comfortable, everybody feels safe to have these conversations. And I think by raising the profile and raising people's understanding of what these mental health illnesses triggers look like will help empower a lot of people within the sort of the local community.
They raise awareness for issues at hand, particularly related to health and mental health, that are not easy to tackle. It raises it to a lot of people, a lot of which probably wouldn't have thought they were issues or probably wouldn't have even been aware they existed, and really enlightens them to the world they live in.
I think it unifies the blokes, also women for other specific charities, to a main cause. I think it gets people talking and it normalises these sort of thoughts that people actually have, and it makes people realise that people actually suffer mental health issues, and it could be any one of us.
So charities such as Movember are really important at raising awareness. Obviously it's important for testicular cancer. You've got Movember doing that mainly, like, that's how people usually associate Movember, but it also is really essential for mental health. That still does get pushed to one side, in my opinion. I do believe for the most part men don't think that they need to shun others for their personal issues anymore, which charities such as Movember have massively helped in overcoming that previous issue. The new challenge, however, is trying to remove the stigma when people are looking at themselves, and that's much harder to overcome, and it definitely won't be possible without charities such as Movember providing the constant awareness that as an individual it's okay to not be okay, and that people are out there and they will sit and listen, and you are not the only one going through it. You can reach out and get support if you want it.
It's because they get us talking, really. The fact that we're here making this video now shows just how effective they are.
So I think the main reason that this time of year is so important, and getting those charity donations in and growing terrible facial hair, is just about raising awareness of the issues that men especially, but a whole population of mental health issues that are going on. And with this raised awareness comes a bit more openness, and hopefully, like we said a bit earlier, opening that dialogue between groups of friends, family members, where it's able, where you feel almost empowered to speak about how you're feeling. So I think that's the main importance behind. Obviously, raising money is great, so they can be fed into groups or specialist projects to help the sufferers of mental health problems, but it's more that overall public preconception that's kind of, and those stereotypes getting broken down, if that makes sense.
So the last thing I'd like to add is just the old saying, a problem shared is a problem halved. I mean, it's been around for years and years. I've heard it, I swear I first heard it when I was like 1. And it's because people want to help others. They want to help people with their problems. So just reach out, don't be afraid. Your life is your road. You choose how you want to build it. You choose how fast you want to take it. You choose the direction you want to go in. Life's a marathon, not a sprint. Just give yourself time, and I know we will all be okay in the end, as long as we just stick at it together. So just treat everyone as a group rather than trying to be a super soldier and going out on your own. If you feel that you can't, reach out.
Everyone, no matter what somebody's going through and what their problems are, even if you can't particularly relate, I think it's important that nobody ever feels like they're alone. Just because your experiences are different to somebody else doesn't mean you can't reach out and you can't speak about it. And people like myself, and I don't know, countless others of your friends, your family groups, or even complete strangers or like trained professionals, they're willing to listen and they're willing to hear your experiences and try and help in whatever way they can, even if it is just providing an ear for you to sort of express yourself and talk about your troubles or your problems. So I think the main takeaway is just don't ever feel like you're alone.
Firstly, I'd like to thank the Student Union team and Shan Doherty for giving men like myself an opportunity to do a video like this and speak publicly to the people out there. It's okay not to be okay, and don't feel like the mental health issues that you have mean that you're weak, because if you can get through them and talk to someone, it shows just as strongly, if not stronger, than those people, those men that are resilient and keep their emotions in.
I'd also like to add that I think especially blokes need to speak out about mental health if you think you've got any issues at all, whether it's experts online or just letting a mate know how you feel. Looking out for your own mates, so every few weeks or maybe every month or so, just ring or text a mate that you've not heard from in a while, just to ask them how they're getting on, how they're feeling, because maybe just speaking to someone can actually be that release that they might need, or realization that they might need help. And just basically just look after each other.
Stay strong, get help if you think you need it, and there's light at the end of the COVID tunnel. I'm sure we'll be out of the woods soon.
I would also just like to add, if you are suffering in any way, shape or form, just talk to someone, please. I can't stress this enough, because as soon as you do, you'll start to begin to feel like you again. Thank you. I hope this is helpful.
You know, and as somebody who has suffered from depression and anxiety multiple times throughout my life, I can say that you're not alone. You know, I always thought it was a battle I had to do myself, and it's not. It never was. And if I had known that back then, everything would have been so much easier. Now I'm able to just talk about my feelings and be out there, and I hope that if you're somebody who's watching this and feels like you can't talk to anyone and you have to battle it alone, you don't. And I am kind of in a way an example of someone who has taken that leap and it's worked out well, and I promise it will for you too. To 2021.